Your car has more computers in it than the Apollo spacecraft, but about half of them exist to make your life worse. I'm Ted, 22 years on the same shop floor, and the cars on my lifts break in ways that were science fiction when I started. Coolant pumps that quit without a drip, transmissions with no dipstick, timing belts soaking in engine oil. These are the 17 modern features mechanics quietly hate. The ones that wreck reliability and turn a good car into a parts car before 150,000 miles. Some of them are on your car right now. Feature number 17, automatic start-stop systems. You pull up to a red light and the engine goes dead silent. Light turns green and the whole car shudders back to life like you woke it from a nap it needed. That's start-stop, and the engineers who fought it lost the argument to the emissions department. Every shutdown means the starter takes another hit, the battery takes another deep cycle, and your crankshaft bearings spin for a split second on almost no oil pressure. Do that 30 times on the drive to work, and you stack up start cycles faster than a Manhattan taxi. The battery it needs is an AGM unit, around $400 on most cars, and when it weakens, the car throws electrical faults that have nothing to do with the battery. Fuel savings? A tank a year, maybe. Press that little A with the circle around it every time you start the car, or fit a memory module that does it for you. Because if start-stop is annoying, the next feature can trap your car in a parking space until a flatbed shows up. Feature number 16, electronic parking brakes. The old handbrake was a steel cable and a lever. You pulled it, you felt the click, you knew where you stood. Now it's a switch on the console feeding commands to two electric motors bolted to your rear calipers, sitting down in the wheel wells with the road salt and the winter slush. When one seizes, the car sets the parking brake and refuses to release it. You can't fix it in the driveway either, because changing the rear pads needs a scan tool to wind those actuators back. Try it with a caliper piston tool and you destroy the motor. I've quoted $700 for one actuator on a Volkswagen and closer to $1,200 aside on some Range Rovers. A cable and a lever lasted 20 years. This lasts until the wiring corrodes. Now to the gas station, where they deleted a part so simple nobody thought it could fail. Feature number 15, capless fuel fillers. No gas cap. Just a spring-loaded flap you shove the nozzle through, and it feels great for about 2 years. Then dust, grit, and worn pump nozzles chew up that sealing flap, and the fuel system stops holding pressure. Your car runs its evaporative emissions self-test, sees the leak, and lights the check engine light. On a normal car, you buy a $15 gas cap and you're done. On a capless system, that seal is part of the filler neck assembly, so you replace the whole pipe, call it $400, and on some models, the rear bumper or a tail light has to come off to reach it. Better yet, run out of fuel and try to pour a jerry can in. Most capless cars reject the can without the plastic funnel adapter that lives in the trunk, the one that fell out the day you bought the car. They took the gas cap. Then they came for the heater dial. Feature number 14, touchscreen only climate controls. The heater dial was one of the greatest pieces of design ever put in a car. You could find it in the dark, wearing gloves, without taking your eyes off the road. Now you tap a glass panel, drill into a menu, and hunt for the defroster while your windshield fogs over in the rain. Two things go wrong. You're driving distracted, and the safety testers noticed. Euro NCAP is now pushing manufacturers to put physical buttons back in for core functions like defrost and hazards if they want top marks. Then there's the repair. When that screen delaminates, ghost touches, or just goes black, you don't lose the radio. You lose the heater, the air conditioning, the defroster, and the reversing camera all at once. Screen replacement on a modern Volvo or Land Rover can run past $2,000. Volkswagen has already admitted the knobs are coming back. Down at the corners, there's a tire that was supposed to end roadside breakdowns and invented a new one. Feature number 13, run flat tires. The pitch was beautiful. Puncture the tire, keep driving, 50 miles at 50 miles an hour, no jack, no kneeling in the rain. What you get is a tire with sidewalls so stiff that every expansion joint on the highway punches straight through to your spine. They wear faster, they cost 30 to 50% more, and most shops will not repair a run flat that's been driven on flat because the sidewall may already be cooked with nothing to see from the outside. One nail near the shoulder and you're buying a new tire, often two, to keep the axle matched. A full set on a BMW 5 Series is a four-figure bill before you've fixed anything else. And because the manufacturer assumed you'd never need it, there's no spare and no jack in the trunk. Plenty of owners switch to normal tires and a compressor kit and never look back. Now look up at the most expensive piece of glass on the car. Feature number 12, panoramic glass roofs. 4 feet of glass over your head, held in by rubber seals, adhesive, and 4 little drain tubes running down the pillars. Those tubes clog with pine needles and dirt within a few years, and the water that should drain onto the road pours into your headliner and down into the floor carpet instead, where it sits and grows mold. Then the rear door module corrodes, and nobody connects it to the sunroof until they pull the carpet up. Panoramic roofs also crack and shatter on their own, often enough that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has opened investigations into it across multiple brands. All that glass adds 60 to 100 pounds high on the roof and turns the cabin into a greenhouse in July. Replacement glass and frame runs from about $1,500 up to $3,000. A steel roof has never once flooded a footwell. Now, about that key in your pocket. Feature number 11, keyless entry and push-button start. Walk up, door unlocks, press a button, engine starts. Very slick. The problem is that your key broadcasts a signal all day, and 2 thieves with a relay amplifier can catch it at your front door, bounce it to your driveway, and drive your car away in under 30 seconds without touching a window. No broken glass, no noise, and then try explaining to your insurer that you still have both keys in your hand. There's a quieter problem too. That constant handshake keeps modules half awake, so a car parked 2 weeks with the fob nearby comes back to a flat battery. A replacement fob runs $300 to $700 with programming. Keep your keys in a Faraday pouch and put an old-fashioned steel lock on the wheel, because thieves hate anything that takes time. Now under the bumper, where there's a second electrical system most owners have no idea they're paying for. Feature number 10, 48-volt mild hybrid systems. Your car wears a mild hybrid badge, and most owners have no idea what it means. It means there's a second, higher voltage system driving a belt starter generator, a beefed-up alternator that restarts the engine and adds a small torque assist. It does not drive the car. It buys you about 5%. What it also buys you is a 48-volt lithium pack, a DC to DC converter, extra wiring looms, and a far more expensive alternator, all of which can fail. The first one I opened, I had to sign a sheet acknowledging high voltage procedure. To replace an alternator. When that belt starter generator goes on a Mercedes or an Audi, the bill lands between $1,500 and $3,000, and the safety procedure pushes the labor rate up with it. Added risk, almost no reward, and it's spreading across every brand. Not every electric motor they added is that harmless, though. This next one can cook an engine in 90 seconds. Feature number 9, electric water pumps. An old mechanical water pump is driven by a belt off the front of the engine. When it fails, it squeals, or it drips pink coolant on your driveway, and it gives you weeks of warning. An electric water pump is a plastic housing with a circuit board and a tiny motor, and it warns you about nothing. It just stops. Coolant flow ends, the temperature needle swings right, and on the highway you may have a minute and a half before you're cooking a cylinder head. BMW owners know this one intimately. The N52 and N20 engines are notorious, and now Audi, Mini, and even some Toyota hybrids use them. I've seen them quit at 50,000 miles. Replacement runs 800 to 2,000 depending on the car. Wait too long and you're pricing a used engine. If your car has one, treat any temperature warning as an emergency and shut it down where you are. Now to an engine that shuts down half of itself on purpose. Feature number 8, cylinder deactivation. On paper, it's clever. Cruising on a flat highway, you don't need 8 cylinders, so the computer shuts 4 off and saves a little fuel. To do it, the engine collapses the lifters on those cylinders so the valves stop opening. Those lifters are complicated little parts full of oil passages and locking pins, and when the oil gets dirty or low, a pin sticks. The lifter collapses and stays collapsed, and now the camshaft lobe is grinding on a dead lifter, shaving metal into your oil. General Motors calls it active fuel management. Chrysler calls it the multi-displacement system, and both are famous for it. I've had trucks on the lift under 60,000 miles with a chewed cam and a lifter turned into a coin. That repair costs more than the fuel the system saved over the entire life of the truck. If you hear a tick at idle that fades as the engine warms, don't ignore it. Change the oil on time, every time, and consider a disable module. Quick thing before number 7, because the last 6 are the ones that actually end engines. Everything I tell customers at the counter is in a free ebook, the Car Savings Manual, linked under this video. It'll be there when we're done. Number 7 is sitting in millions of driveways right now. Feature number 7. Direct injection with no port injectors. Direct injection sprays fuel straight into the cylinder at enormous pressure. More power, better economy, cleaner emissions numbers. The catch is what it stopped doing. In an older port injection engine, fuel sprayed onto the back of the intake valves and washed them clean every cycle, a constant detergent rinse. Direct injection skips that step, so the oil vapor coming through the crankcase ventilation system bakes onto those valves and turns into hard black carbon. It builds slowly, and around 80,000 miles the car starts idling rough, misfiring on cold starts, and losing power on hills. A bottle of cleaner in the tank does nothing because the fuel never touches the deposits. The repair is walnut blasting, where a shop pulls the intake manifold and blasts crushed shells at the valves, and then it all comes back in another 80,000 miles. Volkswagen, Audi, BMW, and Mazda engines are the usual suspects. Toyota solved it by fitting both port and direct injection, which is the setup you actually want. Now, about the belt they decided to hide inside the engine. Feature number 6. Wet timing belts. This one still makes me angry. Somebody decided a rubber timing belt would be quieter and slightly more efficient if it ran inside the engine, submerged in hot oil. Ford did it on the 1-liter EcoBoost. Stellantis did it on the 1.2 PureTech that sits in millions of Peugeots, Citroëns, and Vauxhalls. Rubber and hot oil do not get along forever. the belt sheds material, and that shredded rubber travels straight to the oil pickup screen and blocks it. So now you have a timing belt failing and an oil pump starving at the same time, which is about the worst combination in engineering. When it snaps, the valves meet the pistons and the engine is finished. The PureTech problem got bad enough that Stellantis launched a compensation program across Europe and switched back to a chain. Replacement intervals on some of these are as short as 6 years or 100,000 kilometers, and the job runs about $1,000. If you own one, do the belt early and change the oil religiously. Next up, the transmission that never actually shifts. Feature number 5, CVT transmissions. A continuously variable transmission has no gears. A steel push belt is squeezed between two cone-shaped pulleys that change diameter, and the friction of that belt is the only thing transmitting your engine's power. Smooth, efficient on the test cycle, and it hates heat, towing, hills, and hard acceleration. The belt polishes grooves into the pulleys, the fluid degrades, and you get the classic symptoms: a shudder at low speed, a delay pulling away, and the engine screaming at 4,000 RPM while the car slowly gains speed. Nissan has been through multiple class action settlements over these. Most manufacturers call the fluid lifetime filled, which is where I laugh, because that fluid is the only thing keeping the belt from slipping. Nobody rebuilds a dead CVT either. You buy another one, and on a 10-year-old commuter, it costs more than the car is worth. Change the fluid every 40,000 miles, no matter what the manual says, and don't tow with it. And if a CVT is unpleasant, this next one is the most complained about transmission ever fitted to a family car. Feature number 4, dual clutch transmissions. A dual clutch gearbox is a race car part. 2 clutches, one for odd gears and one for even, so the next gear is already lined up before you need it. In a Porsche on a track, it's magnificent. In a Ford Focus crawling through school traffic, it's a nightmare. Because a dry dual clutch has to slip every time you creep forward, and slipping means heat, and heat means a shuddering, hesitating car that lurches when you're trying to merge. Ford's power shift in the Focus and Fiesta ended in one of the largest class action settlements the industry has seen, and Hyundai, Kia, and Volkswagen have all had their own versions of the complaint. When it fails, the clutches are the cheap half. The mechatronic unit, the computer and hydraulic block living inside the transmission, can be $2,000 to $4,000 on its own. I've turned away 3 Focus owners this year, not because I can't do the job, because I can't warrant it. For a daily commuter, a conventional torque converter automatic will outlive a dual clutch every time. Now let's pop the hood, because this next one is where the real money burns. Feature number 3, plastic cooling system parts. Coolant runs at over 200 degrees under pressure, cycling from freezing to boiling thousands of times over a car's life. So naturally, the industry decided to make the thermostat housing, the expansion tank, the coolant pipes, and the oil filter housing out of plastic. It saves weight and pennies per unit, and it means those parts go brittle on a schedule. BMW expansion tanks let go at idle and dump the entire cooling system onto the road in about a minute. Volkswagen and Audi thermostat housings weep coolant for months and then split. Ford ran plastic intake manifolds that cracked so consistently they became a class action. And because these parts sit buried down between the engine and the firewall, the labor is triple the price of the part. A $300 plastic housing becomes a bill 4 times that size. And if you keep driving after the temperature gauge climbs, it becomes a warped aluminum head. That's a part failing. This next one is the car deciding for itself. Feature number 2, over-the-air updates and software-locked hardware. Your car now updates itself in the driveway at 3 in the morning, and most of the time that's fine. Then one morning the screen is a black rectangle, the reversing camera is gone, and there's no cable to plug in and no button to roll it back. A customer's van did exactly that last spring, and there wasn't a single fault on my scan tool to even chase. Tesla, Ford, BMW, and Volkswagen have all shipped updates that broke infotainment, disabled features, or put cars into limp mode until a dealer intervened. Then there's the other half of it, hardware you own but can't use. Heated seats already sitting under the fabric, adaptive cruise hardware already wired in, all locked behind a monthly subscription. BMW tried charging monthly for heated seats and got shouted down, but the direction of travel is obvious. When your warranty ends and a bad update kills a module, that repair is yours. You're not just driving the car anymore, you're beta testing it. And that leads to the one that quietly kills more transmissions than everything else on this list. Feature number 1. Sealed lifetime fluids and no dipstick. I've hammered transmissions twice already on this list. This is the one that kills the good ones, too. Open the hood of a modern car and look for the transmission dipstick. It isn't there. The manufacturer says the fluid is filled for life. They mean the life of the warranty, not the life of the car. Automatic transmission fluid is oil with friction modifiers in it, and it breaks down from heat exactly like every other fluid under that hood. By 80,000 miles, it's dark, tired, and no longer protecting the clutch packs and the valve body. But with no dipstick, nobody ever looks at it, and the first sign of trouble is a hard shift or a shudder at 40 miles an hour, which means the damage is already done. Checking the level properly needs the car level at a specific fluid temperature with a scan tool watching, so most quick lube shops won't attempt it. That's the whole point. Do a drain and fill every 40 to 60,000 miles at a shop that uses the exact specified fluid, and you'll add years to the most expensive component in the car. It's the cheapest insurance in the automotive world. So there it is. 17 features sold to you as progress that mechanics see as job security. And you are not helpless against a single one of them. Turn off start-stop, change the fluid they call lifetime, walnut blast your valves before you're misfiring, keep your key in a Faraday pouch, clear your sunroof drains once a year, and treat a temperature gauge like a fire alarm. None of that is expensive. All of it buys you years. The rest of it is in the Car Savings Manual, free in the description. Next, I'm breaking down the 15 used cars I'd still buy at 200,000 miles, and the ones I'd walk away from at 50. Subscribe so it finds you. Your car deserves better, and so does your bank account.